The Minority Caucus on the Lands and Natural Resources Committee of Parliament expresses its deepest disappointment with regards to the government's approach toward the renegotiated mining lease between the government of Ghana and Berari DV Ghana Limited. The caucus is particularly dismayed by attempts by the government and the majority caucus in Parliament to justify the reduction of the 10% royalty rate to a paltry 5%, leaving the Ghanaian people worse off in the exploitation of this strategic mineral. It will be recalled that in October 2023, the government of President Akufo-Addo signed a mining lease agreement with the same company for the exploitation of the same mineral, but with enhanced terms, including 1. A royalty rate of 10% above the normal 5%. 2. Free carried interest of 13% above the statutory 10%, with additional Ghanaian participation of at least 30% through the Minerals Income Investment Fund and listing on the Ghana Stock Exchange. 3. A community development fund of 1% of the revenue for the development of the local community. 4. A growth and sustainability levy of 1% of the revenue. And 5th, the establishment of a chemical plant to promote value addition. The NDC opposed these terms, and in a press release dated 13 December 2023, described the 10% royalty rate as a celebration of mediocrity. That was how the NDC termed the way we managed to couch the agreement. That what we had done, or what we had in the agreement, was a celebration of mediocrity. The NDC took the view that the prevailing law on royalties, that is the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act 2015, that is Act 900, made royalty rate open-ended and subject to negotiations. In their view, therefore, the 10% royalty rate secured by the government could have been the baseline rate, subject to upward adjustment in cases of windfall revenue or profit by the company if the government had negotiated properly. Today, given the opportunity to negotiate properly, the NDC government has negotiated for a reduction in the royalty rate from the 10% to 5%. So we ask, what has changed? Earlier on, when we negotiated 10%, they said what we did was an act of mediocrity, and that we could have done better. Today, they are in the hot seat. We were expecting them to negotiate better, upward the 10%. Unfortunately, their hypocrisy has come to play, and they have now negotiated 5%. So we want to know what has changed. Something is wrong somewhere. What has happened to the proper negotiation, which would have resulted in a baseline royalty of 10%, subject to upward adjustment? The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Honorable Emmanuel Kofi-Buah, sought to justify his worse-off agreement by reference to the price of lithium on the world market. Pathetic. However, all these projections had been taken into account before reaching the 10% reach, which they describe as a celebration of mediocrity. At the current world market price of lithium, the company will still make huge profit, even with the 10% royalty rate. We have also taken note of the latest attempt by the majority caucus on the Lands and Natural Resources Committee, and particularly attempts by the chairman of the committee to justify the reduction by saying that the 10% agreed in 2023 was illegal, since statutory rate is 5%. We ask, Since when did they realize that Act 900 did not make the royalty rate open-ended, subject to negotiations?